Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I want to get you started on the ZyBoooks 6.17, which is going to consist of 3 separate files, a header file, and 2 C++ files. So let's start off right away. I've created a new project called ItemtoPurchase in here, and I'm going to create a header file, and I'm going to put some comments in the header file. So the first thing I want to do is let's call this item to purchase.h. And it's going to add something that we're going to get rid of, which is this pragma once. So I'll show you a better way to do it. So I'm going to copy the comments from the instructions. So let's go up to here, and I'm going to go here and paste it. So, and I'll do some housekeeping in here. So let me see what we're going to have here before prompting. So this looks good in here. So this is the name. So the very first thing you should always do on anything you submit is put your name up top and probably the activity in here. So remember that the module activities are different what the ZyBook lab is going to tell you. So it tells you want to create 3 files, ItemtoPurchase.h, ItemtoPurchase.cpp, and main, which is going to have the main function. Remember, only one can have a main function. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a default constructor, and we're going to create a class with functions which are called mutators and accessors. Now, I prefer to call them setters and getters. So I'm not really a big fan of mutators and accessors. So I'm going to change it to setters and getters. You can use whatever you want. They both do the same thing, setters and getters. So setters will set a variable to something and a getter will get it. But remember, we're going to be using private variables, so you're going to have to use a setter to change it. You are not going to be able to do it through mains, and we're going to have both public and private. Now, I like to use the public last and the private first. That's just my personal preference. It really doesn't matter which way you do it. So I'm going to copy my code that I've already written, and so to save myself having to type the same thing over 15 times because I'm having a hard time spelling. And let's copy this over right now. So we don't need this pragma once right now. We can get rid of this. And what we're going to do here is, now notice that the red squiggly line is there. We're going to get rid of it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have header files that are going to be included in both main and then the ItemtoPurchase CPP. So it's going to include this. So what this does is says if the item is not already defined, ItemtoPurchase _h is not defined, we're going to define it. And then if it isn't defined, then we're going to define it. So I think I may have said the same thing twice. If it's not defined, we're going to define it. If it is defined, we're going to ignore it. So that's fairly simple. So what we want to do here is we need to have an end if. So if we have this in here, so let's just do the same thing here, end if, and do not put a semicolon. You can put a semicolon, but then you may run into some problems in here. So the very first thing we're going to do is put our includes before we actually do the class. So in this particular case, all we're going to really need is string. We're not going to need IOStream because we're not going to be doing any input and output from the console, so we really don't need that. And then we'll have using namespace standard, so we don't run into any issues there. So the next thing we need to do is actually create the class. So we're going to call this class. And notice that in contrary to what I normally do, I'm going to capitalize the first letter item, and then every word I'm going to capitalize. That's called Pascal case, and that is the preferred method for classes or anything that is user defined. So we can always talk more about that. So when I look at this, I know it's not a actual function I'm creating. It's actually a user-defined class in here. So we need to have some brackets in here, and this is the end of the class. So that's just a comment. That's my personal style of doing things. So now what we want to do is we need to put in some public and some private parts. So the private parts are going to be the item name, the price, and the quantity. So let's go and do string, and we'll call it item name. Now, anything put here by default is private, but what I'm going to do anyway, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to type in private and put in a colon, not a semicolon. So we're good here. Then I'm going to declare an integer and get price. If you want to declare it an unsigned integer, that's fine, but make it easier on yourself. And then what we're going to do here is do something we don't need to do. So normally I always say it's always good to initialize everything when you declare it. But in this particular case, we don't need to because we're going to do that in the default constructor. So the default constructor is going to say item name equals blank, price equals, actually that shouldn't be get price, that should be item price. Item price equals 0, and then item quantity equals 0. Now notice I'm using the regular, we want item quantity, I'm using regular camel case, and I think I spelled that wrong, quantity. This should be item price. So now we're going good in here. So everything looks good here. Make sure we have our semicolon in here. So now the problem is nothing is accessible. So what we need to do here is we need to add some public stuff. So first thing we're going to do is type the word public and a colon, and then we're going to list our methods. Methods are nothing more than functions of a class. So let's start off with item to purchase. Now this must be, this is a default constructor, must be the name of the class in here. And it does not take void or a return type. It's just a simple function, and then it returns in here. So we're not going to actually be declaring it in this work. It's going to be in the C++ file. So then what we also need is a void. And this is going to be set name. And it's going to take a string. And I'm going to type in the word const after here. The reason why, actually, I am not going to do that. I'm going to do that in the public, in the other ones where the gets in here. So if you prefer to name it in here and put name in here, that's fine. So I normally in prototypes don't put the actual name of the variable. I just do the data type. So now we're going to have void set price, and that's going to take an integer. And then we're going to have void set quantity, and that's also going to take an integer. So this is what main will use to set the price and set the name and set the quantity simply by calling the function with a price in there. Notice that it doesn't return anything. And so the set quantity would be nothing more than item quantity. So let's put in some things here. We'll put in price and quantity so I can give you a little bit of better explanation. So our set price would be item price equals price in here. So that's what will be in here. This is going to be inside the class, so that will have access to the private parts. So now these are our setters. And this is going to be our default constructor. And then we're going to put in some getters. Maybe we'll add a little space here. And this is nothing more than getting something. So, and it's going to return stuff. So we're going to return a string to get the name. So we're going to do get name. And we don't pass anything in here. It's just going to return the name. But I'm going to type in the word constant here, because that way you don't have to worry about the function actually changing anything. It's always a good idea to do that. So we're going to do integer get price. And that will be const. And then we'll do integer get quantity. That was something, I have a Teams meeting in a few minutes, so that was a warning in there. So we're going to get quantity here. And so far we're looking good. And then we just need one more. We want a void to print. And that is your entire header file. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to create two more files. One is going to be the ItemtoPurchase CPP, and one is going to be the main. So you're going to do that strictly by right-clicking here and adding a new item. This time we want a CPP file, and we'll call this item to purchase. And we don't need to add CPP because we have it here, so that's good here. So I'll give you, remember the first line is going to have to be your include. So I'll help you out with that right now. So the first line is going to have to be your include IO stream in there. So let's go with the include IO stream. And then you're also going to need using namespace and anything else that you want to put in, string or that. So using namespace. And this is the important part, and you'll be doing the same thing for main. Here you need to do include, and then you're going to put in quotes item, and we want item to purchase .h. And if I haven't spelled anything wrong, everything should be good. And let's see how we are in here. So obviously I spelled this wrong. And we still have some issues in here, but that's because the file is not complete. So you need to have those three files in here. So I'm going to copy and paste them here. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you're going to need in there. But right now, this is your starting in here. So you're going to need to include the item to purchase.h, your include here, and you're using namespace in here. So that is it for this one right now. So hopefully this helps you. Okay. I do want to mention one more time that if you spell something wrong, so let's, like, for instance, I'm going to do what I did before, why I got that red squiggly line. And notice that there's this red line here. So if you put your mouse over, it's going to give you an error that says can't open source code. So I'm going to put the M here. And it's not necessarily going to go away till I click somewhere else. But so let's try clicking somewhere else, and let's see if that line goes away. It has not as of yet, but it will. And there we go. So we're good to go. So that is it for this. You're going to In this one, you're going to write the default constructor, and then you're going to write all of the methods that go in there. Remember, when you're writing a constructor or any type, you have to do the, let's just put it in here. You have to do the, oops. Just a reminder, you need to do the class name. So let's go and put it in here. You need to do 2 colons and then whatever the method name is. So if we're doing the constructor, we need to put in item to, and you need to make sure that it's spelled exactly. And of course, the class is going to be that, and then you would write the code for that. So that's the general rule for anything in here. So we need to put in here. So again, this is it. So what I recommend is that you do not wait until Sunday night to let me know that you're having a problem. If you wait till Sunday or even Saturday, it makes it very challenging for me, especially Sunday. If you have a problem and you try to get a hold of me Sunday after, say, 4 o'clock, the chances are you're not going to get a response until the next day in there. So what I recommend is making sure that if you're running into a problem, that you let me know by Friday the latest, and if necessary, Saturday. That gives me a little bit of time to figure out what's going on in here. So please, again, Sunday night is a little bit challenging for me to help you. So you want to let me know by Friday, and then we can try to work something out so that I can help you solve your problem. So I will be making a second part of this video with giving you some hints on how to do it. Again, if you have any issues, please let me know, and I will do my best to address them.